it. My sponsor was amazing too, and I think to my mom's credit, like how we learned to talk about suicide and what was going on, like I never really had that feeling around being sober. Like I'm sober. I go to AA. I've been sober for this long. Like it was never one of those things. I guess my biggest thing is I would love for everybody to go to an AA meeting. I would love for everybody to go sit in one of those rooms and just hear the vulnerability, hear what people go through, hear how people are allowed to be, the walls are allowed to come down with no judgment. Yeah. And just come see it.
I know.
I know there's open meetings. I know everybody can go, and I know all that. But I still think there's a stigma or a shame around having to walk into one of those rooms for some reason whatsoever.
Yeah, there is. And I mean, I heard, what's his name? Dr. I can't think of it right now. Hopefully I'll remember in a little bit. Anyway, he passed away.
I was going to say Gabor Mate, but no.
No, not Dr. Andrew Weil. It's, hopefully I'll remember. Anyway, he said the same thing. He was like, if everyone could just go to an AA meeting a few times just to see what it's like, just to understand the acceptance and the openness that people experience, I mean, it would be great. I think, one of the things about social media is that people are putting, things like this out there more. So there is a area now where people are not anonymous.
Yeah.
And
which is great.
Much as I have mixed feelings about social media, that's a good part of it.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a great part of it. I mean, people have access to finding the information that's out there and getting access to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you became sober, you moved to Dallas, did you ever feel like your mental health has played a part in this, where you ever had, depression or anxiety, or did you feel like once you stopped drinking, like life was fairly easy after that? I don't know how to take that laugh, so you'll have to tell me.
No, I mean, I think the one promise of AA is things don't always get better; they just get different. So, from a mental health perspective, I would drive back from Dallas to see Boyd Lester, and I give him, I give credit to my uncle for introducing me to him, which Boyd had a family, our entire family history, because he had seen so many people out of our family. But Boyd Lester was my Tuesdays with Maury. He was, you list all client-patient great relationships, and he was that. He was this little bald man whose hair, he looked like Albert Einstein. His hair stuck out. He had this messy office. I mean, if I close my eyes, I can put myself back in it. He had this New Yorker magazine that he had an article in that sat right here on a wall, and he had books stacked everywhere. And his big belief was that people could only focus for 45 minutes. So your sessions were 45 minutes, and every time he would stand up halfway and go to the bathroom and come back to break up. We did all kinds of weird stuff to break through and do different things. And he taught me so much that, have I struggled with mental health? Probably, yes. I mean, everybody does to certain degrees. I've also had a lot of life happen, more than just my dad passing away as a kid, that I had to work through. After my dad passed away, when I was 12, both of my grandfathers passed away a month apart. And then, a few weeks after that, the husband of my dad's girlfriend, who I was super close to, passed away as well. So I had, I lost 4 men in 3 years that were key components of, my everyday life. And it was big. It was a huge amount of loss in a short period of time that we dealt with. And so I had to work through all that stuff. So yes, I've had mental health issues from that standpoint, but I've worked my tail off to figure them out.
Yeah, it sounds like it. With you saying mental health issues, going back to what you said a minute ago, is that we all have mental health, and we do. And that's something I was talking with somebody about the other day, is that, mental health, we have a physical health and we have a mental health. And sometimes we do have physical issues, and, our body is taking a toll in this way or that way. Same thing with our mental health. And doing things to support our mental health. If more we can open up this conversation and talk about it, hopefully the less people will, when they hear the word mental health, will think of it as such an issue. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. No, and I think that's where, when you look at what they ask us to do when you get into AA, helped me a ton. Right? I mean, they ask us to do 4 or 5 things every day, and it's a lot of the same things that these mental health professionals, these organizations, I believe even what you're doing is Speak as One. When you built your box around, it's to do 3 or 4 or 5 things a day.
Yeah.
And if we just do those, I'm not saying it takes care of everybody's issues, right? Because people are predisposed and have different things that they're dealing with. It's a start.
Exactly, and that's all it takes, is takes a start, and it takes it doesn't even mean that it has to be the end all be all. It's just doing a little bit of things every day if you can, or even, I can't even work out 7 times a week, sometimes I'm like, but I still work out, and the same thing. It's just like, do the best you can, but add these things to your life to help your mind, just during the times when there are challenges, because we're human and we're going to have challenges. Right.
No, and I think that even goes to the therapy component of it, right? Because I'm a big believer in therapy.
I am too.
And I'm also a big believer in this new coaching practice that's come about over the last, what feels like since yesterday. I believe it's easier for people to get a coach.
There are much more coaches, it feels like.
I feel it's easier to ask for a coach's help, because I've had coaches in golf, baseball, football, on down the line, and most people that have played sports, than a therapist, which makes me seem like I've got a problem.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And I also believe, like you and I talked about this the other day, that I believe there's some real genius in this coaching model that's come about, because they can ask questions that legally therapists just can't ask.
Right.
And so I encourage it. I want people, go get a coach. Go figure it out. If you're struggling and think you need therapy and don't want to ask for that help, go get a coach.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Therapists are licensed for a reason. And so if you really are having a hard time getting out of bed, or suicidal ideation.
Right.
Yeah. And
100% agree.
And if it's going to take you a long time to find one, in the meantime, get a coach. Or if you feel like, I just am having a hard time navigating life, maybe a coach is better.
Yeah.
Whatever way, kind of try to just do a little small assessment of where you are in life.
Yeah.
Figure out what you can do, and pick one or the other.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the thing I feel like that are good about most coaches that at least I've met, and hopefully all coaches will do this, is if they feel like there's if they understand that who they're coaching needs a therapist, then they send them to them.
I agree.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think it's a big thing. It's I've learned a lot. I've had 2 or 3 coaches, and they've just been amazing.
Yeah. So are there other things that you do to support your mental health now, that you can share with our audience? Give them some tips
no, I
and
do.
tools.
I think there's a lot of things. I think that and they don't always, I don't do all these every day, but I think that I think movement is a huge one. I think getting out and moving and walking has become a big it became a big deal during the pandemic, because what else could we do? Right? Everybody started walking.
You remember that one point though, when everybody has to walk a certain way around town way?
So you don't run into anybody.
Yeah.
It's crazy times.
And a good thing we're not there anymore.
That's right. I think that I think movement is huge. I think journaling is massive. I think when we take things from our mind and put it down on paper, one, it's never half as bad as we really think it is when it's down on paper. And two, I think when we go back a few weeks later and look at the stuff that we were writing down that we were really worried about, 90% of them never come true, maybe 95%. Working out, I mean, I hit a lot of golf balls. I mean, that's a great stress reliever for me. And really, I mean, there's a few others that I do. Meditation is big. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I read a ton. Gabor Mate has a great new book out called The Myth of Normal.
Oh, okay.
It's amazing.
What is it? Who's the author?
Gabor Mate.
Okay.
And he does a lot of talk around alcoholics being sober, the brain. He mixes in his own personal experience with a lot of data and statistics. And I thought the title was pretty catching because I think we all, even through the pandemic, even before the pandemic, everybody's like, man, if I could just get back to normal. Yeah. What is normal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in this day and age, like, I just think that the title is exactly true. There is a myth of normal. Like, none of us are normal.
No, and I guess that's what it is for your family, you know.
Yeah.
But, it's not, I think this idea of this, like, checklist and this model, this, like, die cut that we're all supposed to live and we need to all have the same education because we all have the same brain and we all need to have the same faith, that it's just like, that's not life.
No, I agree.
We're all different in so many ways, yet we also all struggle and need each other's support, Also, there's a lot of ways where I feel like we're the same, Yeah.
No, it's and I think it's about finding that connection with the other people that's what makes life special. But it also allows people that start the conversation around what's really going on is when you find that common bond.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you see that we can change the conversation around mental health and suicide?
I mean, that's a big one. It's one that I'm passionate. I feel like I'm passionate about, especially around the suicide. I think normalizing the thoughts that are around it, as far as, they teach us in AA, and I think it's a great thing, never believe your first thought. A lot of times when people say, I don't want to be here anymore, it's just a first thought. When our kids say it to us, we create the reaction that scares them and maybe not want to share more. I think getting real curious around it.
I think so too.
Around, I've talked to several people who've been like, well, what would it look like? Like, oh God, I just wish I'd get hit by a bus today. Well, how big would the bus be?
Right.
What would it look like if you weren't here anymore? And I think changing the conversation around mental health is we could talk for 3 hours about that. But I think it's being done. I think we're in an age over like these last 5 years where everybody's really starting to talk about vulnerability and especially men are starting to talk about vulnerability, which is really cool that they're finally coming around and being able to talk about it. I think that it happens through conversations like this. I think it happens through what Speak as One is doing as a whole to try and educate people on different ways to address their mental health. I think it happens through just giving people a safe space to go and say, I need help. I mean, I think that's it. Every little conversation opens that up a little bit more.
Yeah. We had somebody on here, his name's Matt, and he was going to attempt to take his life. And whenever he got home, he went and got a gun and got out of the car, and his neighbor said to him, like, how you doing, Matt? He said, oh, I'm okay. And long story short, she said, are you going to take your life today?
Oh, God. Yeah.
And she saved his life.
Yeah.
He said, yes, I am.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm saying that is because same thing, like, kudos to your mom. She was way ahead of the time.
Yeah.
Is when you open it up and talk about it, it takes away this need for us to think that there's shame in it. There was not, your dad was suffering,
Big time.
Wonderful man, and he that's what he needed for him.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in that.
No.
And there's no shame around the thoughts. And if we can be that direct with people, if you know of somebody that you think, wow, I wonder if they're thinking about it,
Yeah.
ask them.
Big time. And I think this new hotline, this 988 that's been created, is amazing.
Absolutely.
To give people a place to call that it's anonymous, it's whatever it may be of here's what's going on.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
I also think that if people just would go seek a little bit of knowledge around it. I mean, Byron Katie is an amazing woman who's done some amazing work.
She's coming to South by.
Yeah. And her 4 questions that go around, every thought or thing that we have, is it true? Can you really prove that it's true? What would it be if it wasn't true? And what would you replace it with? Mm-hmm. I mean, I've used those on my kids. I mean, it's like parenting 101. It's amazing. It's life 101, right? And I had a coach that used to just beat me with those 4 questions to the point where I would slam the computer shut some days because I would have these thoughts around, whatever it was that growing up, I had this theory that everybody that loved me left. My dad had left, all this, right? It was a story I told myself. Right. And we went through this, and it was groundbreaking for me. And this wasn't that, it was 3 or 4 years ago we went through this, and she would just literally, can you prove in a court of law that that's true?
Right.
What would you be if you didn't believe that? And then what would you change? And it's 4 of the most powerful, simple questions around, and it's just amazing. And so I think finding people in your life that aren't scared to ask those questions or to face the repercussions of what may come of asking some of those questions, are important people to have.
Absolutely.
We need more no people and a lot less yes people in our lives.
Yeah, it's really true. Yep. I agree with you on that. Well, thank you, Josh.
Oh, thank you. This was great.
Good. Yeah. So thrilled that you're on today, and thank you for sharing your story with us. And, I just know that it's going to help others. So.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's great to be here.
I want to thank Josh again for joining us here at Speak as One. And like always, please like, subscribe, and share this with your friends. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.